I'm delighted to be here to share some of my thoughts on innovation in education, which came from my personal experience of the disability. Education, as we all know, is power. Education lays the foundation for a good life. Education empowers a community. Education builds a nation. That was my perspective until in 1987 I met with a road accident which left me with a high support need and on this wheelchair. For you to understand, my spinal cord is fractured at my neck level, which means below my neck everything is dead. No sensation, movement, no movement. So if you push me, even with a finger of yours, if I'm not sitting on this chair, I will fall down. Saying that, the accident brought about several changes in my life, a lot of rejection, humiliation, as and I had qualified the topmost, most elite service of this country, but was rejected on account of the accident and becoming disabled because there was no law to protect my rights. But I needed a career. What would I do? Mutually in the family, we decided education would be the best for me, as I had been a good student all through. I was personally excited because it was an opportunity to go back to the university. My department and university, where I had brought them a lot of accolades, national debating championships, inter-state debating championships, basketball player. I was good in academics, seminar secretary, topper, gold medalist. I was all excited, my department. But the story was completely different when I reached there. Same professors, same department. I was unfamiliar, this body, this wheelchair, the deformities, the curled fingers. My department was unsure if I can be an asset to the department and can really do a research. For me, the interview was a straw, same as a straw for a drowning person. I had to get in there. I had to do something. And so, in my desperation, in that 1 hour interview, I said, "Look, Rosa Parks flew the aeroplane." For a few seconds, everyone looked at me and said, "What?" I said, "Rosa doesn't have hands. She flew it with her legs. And you think I can't do a lab work with my fingers?" That was the turning point. One professor came forward, accepted me, and the story changed. When I went to the university, unknowingly, it was the beginning of disability advocacy for me because I became exposed to barriers. First, physical barriers, too many, steps and stairs everywhere, inaccessible toilets. First day was great, second day was great because those days, how I was voiding my bladder was by using a red catheter. I used to do intermittent catheterization, put a red catheter in my urethra, and for 6 hours I was dry again. Third day, because of some anxiety, while my attendant Birat Pod, was carrying me down, I was wet, my bladder leaked. I was so embarrassed, I started crying. I felt like dying. And I said, "We have to go home." So somehow he managed through a landline to connect with my father. The car and driver came, and I reached home with one strong decision: I'm not going back to the university again. Next morning, my parents say, "Come, let's get ready. You have to go to the university." I told you I'm not going back. Dad said, "Listen to mom, what she has done." You know what my mother had done? She had cut old towels, cut them into thick pads, stretched them. She said, "Your concern was getting wet, feeling embarrassed. Now just wear this pad and you are dry. Even if your bladder leaks, you are dry. There is no sense of feeling bad." So there was no other excuse to be given, and I went back to the university. While dropping me, Dad said, "Set your eyes on the goal. You are here to be a change maker. You are here to prove people wrong. You are here to set a standard that people with disability can achieve a lot. And the rest is history. I completed my PhD. I became the first person on wheelchair to do a PhD in whole of South Asia. I won the National Young Scientist Award, and that was the beginning of a new life. I also got into disability activism after I started earning. That's again a difficult journey. Some other time, some other stories. Long and short is when I had enough money in my bank, I was a regular taxpayer. I started seriously thinking about disability. Where are the people with disabilities? Everywhere I went, they were in special schools, the blind school, the deaf college, the intellectual disability school, the home school, the parent school, but they were nowhere in the mainstream school. What was happening? It pained me a lot. We should read together. Because think about it. For 14 years, I read in a school for the orthopedically impaired. You read in a regular school. She reads in a blind school. He reads in a deaf school. After 14 years, do you think we can understand each other? We can accommodate each other's difference? But if we learn together, we grow together, then we accept differences. Even further, we celebrate diversity. With this as my mantra, I started talking about inclusion and inclusive education. When I was in the US and I went to a school, it was a preliminary school, elementary school, there were 12 students. And the teacher was playing a game. And she was telling the children to run around in a circle, clap their hands, thump their feet, sing a song. And one child would go and stand near the wall. And the game went on till each child had stood near the wall. Then she said, "Which part of the game you enjoyed?" Kid said, "We didn't like standing near the wall. I love to play." Then she said, "Isn't that what you're doing to your friend? Look at him. Last 3 days, he's on a wheelchair. He's sitting in that corner of the room, but none of you are interested to even say hello to him." I was astounded. What a profound message. What a simple game. And what we were doing. I was by then an active member of Disabled People's International. I was talking in the United Nations. I was traveling all across the world, giving speeches, conferences. We were spending millions to bring about inclusion of people with disability. This one idea, I came back home to India. I conceptualized a project called as Anjali. Anjali was about bringing children with and without disabilities together in a 5 days camp. Number one. So together, learning together. Number two, joyful learning. We would learn our classrooms, we called them workshops. What we did, we started teaching mathematics using magic. We started with intellectually challenged. We could reach to all. Science, we were teaching through games and modeling. History, we were teaching by teaching songs. And it was so easy for every child to learn the name of all the kings, all the freedom fighters by singing a song. We were teaching them history and geography through theater. And we found the best friendship between the child with disability and without disability forming in the theater group. How would Anjali go forward? This was the concept. And I started carrying it all around. 22 officers rejected the proposal. Why? Oh, go to the disability department. What has education to do with disability? Come on, culture doesn't look at dance and song of the disabled. Every person, like even now in the society, you get so overwhelmed with a wheelchair, with a hearing aid, with a braille book, with someone's grotesque face, with a hunchback, that we don't try to move beyond that. It's only when you move beyond my wheelchair will you discover the beautiful person within me. When you go beyond the blindness and the blind stick, the hearing aid, you will find amazing human beings with a heart full of love out there. So here, After rejection, the 23rd was Mr. Balakrishnan, then culture secretary, now advisor to the chief minister, said, Shruti, someday can you give me an international project? I said, yes, I can. I was looking for an opportunity just to do it. We started the second challenge. Every school in Bhubaneswar and all parents, they said, no, 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 our children are not go and play with disabled children. No, no, no. We are not going to be there with the Divyang children. So the first year, it was just 77 children from Bhubaneswar with disability. But you know, when you do a good thing, when children fall in love with it, they break all barriers. The next year, we had children from Ruchika High School, Stewart High School, every school coming and joining us. And I'm so happy to tell you, Anjali, as a model of education, was invited to the first education congress in Norway when the world was just dabbling with inclusive education, that we all should study together. We went to the Tokyo conference. We went to the United Nations, in the US, in Thailand, in a small country like Laos. Wherever we were talking about inclusive education, Anjali was going as a model. Last year in now we have made it an international festival. 77 local children, only disability. We reached 60,000 children, 25 states of India, all 30 districts of Odisha, 12 countries of India. We brought them all here to Bhubaneswar. Then what? This cannot be adopted because this is just a model. What you need in our country is a policy and a law. Without a legal environment, you cannot mandate inclusion. So next 10, 15 years, I was fully engrossed. While this was going on, this act was going on, volunteers were working, we brought about laws in this country. Again, I'm very happy. You see, that was a lot of drama, lobbying, fighting, writing, sitting with kerosene jar in front of India Gate. We are going to self-immolate ourselves, candle protest marches, meeting the ministers. But finally, in India today, we have 5 strong laws. We have an international convention. We have a census which counted us, and we have accessible elections. Once this was done in 2016, the new law mandated every school has to be inclusive. Every child must go to a school within 3 kilometers in the neighborhood area. Every school has to have special teachers. Every school needs to have counselors. Every school needs to have a resource center to teach children with disabilities. But again, we faced a lot of challenges because parents and teachers, they are us, isn't it? They are people. We have a psyche. We cannot accept disability very easily, and some also say, see, the day I became disabled, in an instant, my father, mother, grandfather, everybody was a sinner, and for the sins they had committed, I became disabled. So that's part of our psyche. So we found that despite the law, despite the examples, children were not in the school. When we went around, did a survey in 7 districts of Odisha, where are children with disability? They are in your roll numbers. They have been enrolled. Oh, those children, they come for a day when there is a feast. Oh, those children, they come once to collect a scholarship. Oh, yes, I have seen them. They came to collect a wheelchair. Teachers told me, I am so overburdened with work. I do so many other things. It is not possible for me to teach these children. Why do you have to bring them here? Take them to your special schools. So it was then necessary to bring about a model and show them that children can perform at par when given the right environment. Then we created a model called as Saksham. I'm so happy to share with you. Saksham started as an inclusive child resource center in government schools. I thought if we work in the government schools, work with children from urban poor areas where there are no resources, and we make it a success, then it is possible to do in a Kendriya Vidyalaya, in a private school, in any other schools. So we had these centers. What did the centers do? The centers, after school hours, provided children with disabilities that had little extra support they needed. Somebody needed a speech therapy to study. Somebody needed a physiotherapy to study. Somebody needed an assessment, a wheelchair, a table, a crutch, a walker, a hearing aid. We did that assessment. Somebody needed books and material in alternate format. We provided books in braille, books in audio format. Somebody needed a sign language. Then came the other group of people, the teachers. The teachers had to be told about 21 categories of disability, that every category of disability will need, has some different functional challenge, needs certain adaptations, and if that is provided, everybody will succeed. So alternate methods of teaching, alternate methods of evaluation. For an autistic child who did not need to be touched or talked, a computer was good enough. And Deepak Dwivedi, who was always scoring 0 in his class, teachers were always giving him 0, he did not write, scored 95 in English. Teachers were astounded as the quality of things he was doing because he was very happy working on his computer. Pujasini, we supported her with some basic training. She wanted a wheelchair on which she could play. She became the national fencing championship. Pratik wanted to do scuba diving. And alongside, he wanted some training for the tutorials for this thing. Proudly now studying in IIT. So we provided a model. We proved and showed the society, the government, and the parents that just little bit, everybody needs support. You need your glasses, right? Somebody needs some medicines. Somebody needs some music to lead people. So also, people with disabilities need some adaptations, and when that is provided in education, we follow the alternate methods of teaching, then the sky is the limit. I will end saying that all this is possible, change is possible, new things can happen. Everybody can read together in one classroom. Each one of us has challenges, each one of us has potential, but what we need to understand is success is a collaborative effort. The minute you are saying, I did this, that's wrong.